supermarkets have seen an increase in the number of pensioners shoplifting due to the cost of living crisis. And the boss of a security firm says people can't afford to spend even as much as £10 on food, and that stealing from shops comes out of sheer desperation. So do you think we should be giving out food vouchers to help pensioners who are struggling? Or maybe you feel that pensioners get enough financial support as it is and the money would be far better spent elsewhere. Maybe you even think it would be humiliating and embarrassing for them to be given vouchers. Do get your calls in right now. The number 0207 862 2222. Let's start with you, Lorraine. You know, more older people shoplifting than ever before. It's terribly sad to hear that, isn't it?
I can't imagine that, because all the pensioners are sort of, I mean, obviously there's older ones than me and there's younger ones than me. Well, all about that sort of age. And I can't see them going shoplifting. I can see that maybe one or two have been caught and it's been blown up a bit. But what I do think is that a lot of pensioners don't take what is rightfully theirs, and I don't think that food vouchers is very charming. It's a little bit like charity. And don't forget, people forget we've paid for everything we get. They're not gifts. It's like, if you want to do them a favour, give them their blooming heating bills back.
I know exactly what you mean, this sort of heating supplement back. But tell me something, because I said, would it be embarrassing? Would it be demeaning to say to pensioners, you know, listen, you're really struggling, here's vouchers for food? Do you think that would be, for proud people, they'd find it kind of insulting in a way?
Well, I think there might be a goodly few who would, and therefore those people would be, as usual, the ones not getting it. And generally, it's the ones who need it
don't
get it. But then what is the way around it? I mean, perhaps you guys
let's ask Angela about this. I mean, you know, it seems very sad, doesn't it, that there's a rise in older people shoplifting. Yeah. Do you think that vouchers for food might help?
Well, I think, you know, as a responsible state, we should always help those who are in need. And I know that's a kind of woolly, ethical and idealistic argument, but the point is that if we have a form of welfare state, the whole emphasis is on welfare, and it shouldn't really matter how old you are. If you're a parent trying to feed your children, if you're living by yourself, you can't get work, if you're a pensioner. And I think it's very sad, given that pensioners, by definition, I can't believe you use pensioner and the name Lorraine Chase in the same
I know, it's shocking, I agree.
It's complete anathema to me. That they've spent their whole working life contributing to the state, working, and suddenly the state has to give a handout. But if it's necessary, but not because it's divided by age. That's the bit that sort of gets my hackles up a little bit. Yes. It's not that it should be an age-related thing. It should be because there's a need. And the issue that I do have is with food vouchers, not the concept of helping people, but the idea of a voucher system. First of all, it's a very short-term fix for a long-term problem. It doesn't address things like the rising cost of living in general, cost of housing, heating, etc. You're right about the winter fuel payment, which was a very blunt instrument. So, you know, it doesn't address all of those things. And also, as you say, Vanessa, something very undignified about a food voucher. Also, will it be for certain shops? Are you telling somebody who's 70 years old, you can only get your bread and milk from this shop and not that? There could be somebody who's been...
Also, can you imagine being at the checkout and you go, oh, hold on, I'll just get my food. Oh, it's just too awful. No, give pensioners what they have lived all their lives and paid into. Give them dignity. And if they haven't got enough money, then the pension isn't enough.
All right, the calls are coming in thick and fast, which I'm not at all surprised to hear, but I'd like to know what Darryl thinks about this. Obviously, you're the youngest person here. Yeah. You may have a very different perspective, and it could be that you feel that pensioners are already, to some extent, better off than younger people who are really struggling.
I think we do have a relatively generous offer for older people. The triple lock is an extortionately expensive thing, but it's probably the right thing. It's right, I think, that those that pensions increase in the way that they do. And
that's the triple lock that links pensions to inflation.
Yeah, exactly.
So
inflation,
outstrip the other,
wages, or 2.5%, whichever is the sort of threshold. So pensions do go up with the cost of living, in theory. I think it would probably be good to increase the threshold at which people get pension credit. I think perhaps that should have probably come with a change to the winter fuel allowance. I think there are probably people who are sort of right on that bracket who are not earning a huge amount but don't qualify for the support.
They definitely are. I've spoken to so
Exactly,
many of them
absolutely.
on my radio shows and everything, and they ring in to say they just made the cut-off point, as you say, a blunt instrument, which really
very
has
much so.
scooped up so many people who are really finding it incredibly tough.
I don't think we should feel shame, though, about using about the welfare state and about social security. I think this is something we need to shed ourselves of, because most people actually drift on and drift off. There are, of course, a constituency of people who spend a chronic amount of time on the welfare state, and that's something that we're trying to address. But most people drift on and drift off at the point of need, and it is there to catch us. We all pay in. It's there to catch us when we need it and support us through a hard time. And I don't think we should
Let's
feel
go to
shame
the
about it.
phones, because so many people want to speak to us, and you just need to look down that camera there so you can, give them a good smile. Let's talk to Anne in Hertfordshire first. Anne, you don't like the sound of vouchers one bit, do you?
No, I think it's insulting. I'm a disabled pensioner. I'm in a wheelchair. And I would like my heating allowance back to keep me warm, because I can't move around about much. And I think the government are insulting. Cut the government ministers, all the government people that work in government, cut their pay and treat us with respect.
Do you feel disrespected as it is, Anne? You don't feel as if
Yeah, I just feel as though I'm a second-class citizen. I started getting my pension last October. And I just feel, they're taxing my pension. They tax my wages. Don't tax my pension. Treat me with a bit more respect from that. I'm not stupid. I've worked, I've paid in. Leave me alone now.
Do you agree with that?
Oh, I do, and that's a way of letting them have a few more bob, isn't it? Just don't tax their pension. Stop it. You've taxed them all their life.
I think that's true. I think there's been this perception that somehow pensioners are the nation's cash point, that they've worked all their lives, they're on cruises, they're on the golf course, they're sort of, the fact that you are collecting your pension suggests that you're now in this kind of very easy time of life where you've lined all your skittles up, and it's manifestly not the case. It's clearly not the case. I take the point about the welfare state being there to catch you when you need it, and there is an argument against creating a cycle of welfare dependency where people think, because it's there, I'm going to use it. But this is actually at the point of need if there are people that can't afford it.
Right, let's go to Jackie. She's on the line in Loughborough. Jackie, what's your experience so far of being a pensioner?
I myself am not a pensioner, but I go to a local fair and all in Loughborough, and there are many pensioners that get a food parcel for a very small price, but it's quadruple what they would pay for in the shops, and they are there every day when it's a food parcel day. And I actually sit across from somebody who buys one all the time and goes to every place where they're giving them for free. And these are pensioners. And they go in.
And do you feel that it's a colossal kind of humiliation for them, that they feel kind of ashamed at having to receive these food parcels?
I think they do, and I think the government should subsidise it, because pensioners are really struggling.
And those people who think, as Angela says, pensioners, they probably own their own properties, they're probably, having wonderful, as she says, cruises and, growing prize marrows and really having a marvellous time. That's not what you're seeing with these people that you're meeting.
No, they're not going on cruises, not having a marvellous time.
All right, Jackie, thank you so much. Thank you for calling. Let's talk to Mary in Glasgow. Mary, you feel that pensioners need additional help too?
Hi, Vanessa.
Hello.
Can I just start by saying I absolutely love your show. You're amazing. Thank you very much.
Certainly you can. How lovely of you to say that. Yes, you can. Ring again tomorrow and say the same thing again. What do you think about pensioners, Mary?
Right. What I feel is that some people don't understand the position of pensioners, especially pensioners who live on their own. They're not having two pensions coming in. They're not having maybe a semi-retirement, a wee bit of wage coming in from two people. So what happens is that pensioners get their $8.80 a month and maybe another few hundred quid. But people forget that sometimes they've got grandchildren, they've got Christmas, birthdays, Easter and all this. Also, house repairs come up. We need to look after our homes. We need to look after our gardens. So what happens is that we're always having to... Now, I'm just a new pensioner. I'm just turned 66, so I've just started getting the state pension. But it is a struggle to look after the home, and I want to look after my grandsons. And I don't think it's as easy as people think, especially for somebody who is a pensioner and lives on their own. We've still got utilities and bills to pay, so it is definitely not easy, Vanessa, not easy at all.
Mary, thank you very much indeed for the call. And, you know, I don't normally quote T.S. Eliot on a daytime television show, but why shouldn't I? He wrote very beautifully and very sadly about living and partly living. And what you don't want is pensioners who are partly living because they can't afford to buy their grandchildren a birthday present, they can't afford to repair their homes.